Hi, Santiago from Upsave here. In this video, we'll learn how to set up your UI for your integration character. In the last video, we left off with a character that can move around, pick up an item, and equip it. We can also unequip and equip it if we want to. But we don't have any UI that shows the ammo of our item or the item that we have equipped, and we don't have an inventory grid where we can choose what item to equip. The first thing we'll set up is the character UI, so we'll go to Upsave, Ultimate Character Controller, and go to our main manager. We'll go to the Setup tab, go under the UI Setup, and press Add UI. This will create a UI where we can see the character health and the items that we have equipped. As you can see, if we equip the item, for some reason it won't show the item here that we have equipped, and that's because we haven't set up any UI on the item prefab. You can go under the assault rifle that we created in the last video, and if you go under the item component and find the UI section, then you can set an icon here. By doing so, once you save, if you want, you can set up more UI elements. We'll set up the cross hair center. You can set up other UI elements if you want. But now if we press play and equip the item, we should be able to see our item in the UI. And if we fire, you can even see the ammo that we're using. You can pick up the other item, which also has bullets for our assault rifle. And as you can see, now we have 40 bullets used, or 30 bullets that are equipped on the item, and 40 bullets that we have in our inventory that can be used. Now we can set up the inventory UI. To do so, we can go to Tools, Upsave, Ultimate Inventory System, Main Manager. If we go under Setup, we'll see that we have a UI setup here, which is actually a little more complicated than the character UI. In the inventory UI, you have a lot of options on how to set up your inventory grid, or how to set up your hotbars, etc. If you want to learn more about the UI designer, I would highly suggest that you check the documentation or the video tutorial specific to the inventory system. The thing that you need to know is that you need first to set up your canvas for the inventory system. So let's do that. We created this inventory canvas, which has a few components. Then we have our UI designer schema that we can choose. We can use one of the schemas that we already own. So if we go here in the classic schema, you can choose whether you want to use the classic or the RPG schema, or if you want, you should probably duplicate one of the schemas so that you can use them. We'll duplicate the classic schema, which will be the one that we'll use for this video. We'll create it here, UI designer schema. Let's call it tuto. UI designer schema. This might take a while. So now the schema finished duplicating, so we can try to set up our UI. You can either choose to set up your UI manually, going through each of these tabs and creating the UI elements that you want. Or to get started quickly, you can just press Spawn in Scene, which will set up a basic UI with most of these things that we need. So there we set up a UI, which is basic inventory grid. So if we go to Start, we should now be able to open our inventory grid. As you can see, I can open the inventory grid by pressing I, and we don't have any items. We can pick up an item. We'll see our item show up in this pop-up here from the inventory monitor, and now we can see our items. When we click on them, nothing is happening because we haven't set up the item actions to equip or to do other things. If we equip our item from the pickup, we can see that our item is indeed equipped by this blue background. You can completely customize how the items look in their item view slots. You can learn more about that in the videos from the inventory system or from the documentation. One problem that we have is that our character UI is showing on top of our inventory UI. To fix this, an easy way is simply to go to our inventory canvas and setting the sort order to be on top of the canvas from the character. By doing so, if we go to our inventory, now if we open our inventory, it will be shown on top. There you go. A problem that we have is that when we open the inventory, sometimes the cursor doesn't show up. To fix this, what I can do is go to the inventory canvas, scroll down, and choose to enable the cursor from the display panel manager handler. We can disable the cursor while the gameplay panel is set up, and we can enable the cursor if we press the escape button. We can also enable and disable the input of the character when the gameplay panel is selected. Let's do that. And on the character himself, you'll also see in the Unity input component, if I can find it, Unity input component, you'll find here that you have a disable cursor and enable cursor with escape. You will disable those such that the inventory canvas from the display panel manager and handler will actually do the enabling and disabling of the cursor instead of the character. So now let's save, open this up, and now if I equip an item and open the inventory with the I button, we can see that we have our cursor that shows up now and disappears as soon as we close the UI. So far so good, but now we want to be able to equip and unequip our items from here. We probably want also to have a equipment window inside this grid, inside this panel. The first thing we'll do is set up the item actions for your inventory grid. So if we go to Tools, Upsave, Ultimate Inventory System, and the UI Designer, then if we go to our inventory grid and we scroll down, we'll see all our options that we can use to customize the inventory grid. We can press this button here to find the inventory grids that we want to edit. We'll edit the inventory grid for the character. If we click it here, we can find it in the scene. And if we scroll down, we can try to customize the different options. The options that we want to customize will be the item actions that we'll use to equip the item, for example. So here, under item actions, we'll press the plus button and add one of these. We can add a category item action set or an item action set. The category item action set will be more flexible, such that we can add different item actions depending on the category of the item that we have selected. So we'll create one of those. If we select it, you'll see that we have a binding that was created in the UI and that we can set up our category item set for our actions. We can create one here by pressing this button. We'll put it under here, our tutorial folder, and we'll create a name called tuto category item action set. Now that this is done, we can click it here and we can try to set up our item actions. The first item action that we'll create will be the equip item action. So we'll call this equip item action. And we can set the category of the item that we can use this item action on, which will be the equipable item category. And then we can set some exceptions. In our case, we don't have any. And then we can set our item actions for this category. Here we can set the character equip on equip item action. As you can see, we have multiple item actions. The ones that we would use to equip in the inventory system would have been the move to collection item action, which moves an item from one item collection to another one. But in the case of the character system, or the integration between the character and the inventory system, we have a few item actions that are specific to the integration. All of these have a character, or they start with a character in their name. So for example, we have a character drop item action, a character modify attribute item action, or a character use item action. In the case of the equip on equip, we'll use this one, character equip on equip item action. Here we can customize the item action itself. So we'll use either equip or unequip. Now that we've set up this here, and that we've set it up here in the UI, we can save. And normally, if everything is correct, we should be able to equip and unequip items from the UI. So let's pick up the item on the right, which does not equip automatically. We'll open the inventory, click on it, and as you can see, it equips and unequips. We don't have any item action pop-up that lets us choose what item action we want to use, because we haven't told the system to do so. If that's what you want to do, you can go here in the UI Designer again, Tools, Obsive, UI Designer. We can scroll down to the Item Actions options, and here you have an Item Action panel. If we create an Item Action panel, then we should be able to see the panel once we click on it. So let's close, save, open. Let's pick up the item, open the inventory, and now if we click on it, you will see a little panel that will ask you what item action you want to use. Now we can equip and unequip. Now that we've set up our tuto category item action set, we can set more item actions depending on the item category of the item, and we can even set things like dropping the item. Let's try that. Character drop. You can either set this on the same item action with equipable, or you could actually create a new one, call it drop item action. Here we'll select droppable, and then here in the item action we'll use the character drop item action. Or actually we'll use the character quantity drop item action, which lets us choose the quantity we want to drop. Here we can set a prefab for this quantity drop. So let's choose our quantity picker panel. So we can choose one that we want. So these are from the different schemas that we created. So let's see, this one is the one we want to use. Assets tutorial from our UI schema that we created. So let's pick this one, and let's not forget to remove the drop item action that we added before in the wrong one. There you go. So now we'll be able to equip all equipable items, and we'll be able to drop all droppable items. So let's save, open the inventory, pick up the item, we'll be able to equip, unequip, and drop. And we picked it up again. A reminder, if we drop this item here, since we've used a character item action, the character quantity drop item action, the inventory or the item pickup that will be used to drop the item is the one that we specified here on the character, the inventory item pickup in this field. If we had selected this option here, then the item pickup we would have dropped would have been used from this prefab here, drop prefab, from the item directly. Since we've set the drop item action to be on the droppable item category, then we should be able to drop the ammo itself. As you can see, we don't have the drop item action. And that's because the ammo wasn't set as a droppable item. So let's go to Tools, Observe, Ultimate Inventory System. And if we go to the item categories, we can get the ammo item, and let's just make it a droppable item. So now it inherits from all and droppable. The item definition attributes here, you can see that we have our drop prefab. So when we drop our bullets, we will see this little bag. Let's try again. Drop. We can choose our quantity. The panel looks a bit off, but we can fix this in the UI directly. And we'll drop 10 ammo, and there you go. We dropped a little bag, which if we pick up, should have 10 ammo. Now that we have some item actions to equip and unequip our item, let's add an equipment window. So if we go to Tools, Observe, UI Designer, and go under the Equipment tab, here we will be able to create our window for equipment. Here it asks us where we want to create our equipment window. What we'll do is we'll create it under our main menu next to our inventory grid, and then maybe we'll merge those two panels together. So for now we'll use a simple panel. We can choose the panel name, the inventory that we'll be using, which will be Nolan, and then here we have to set our item slot set. So the item slot set must be the same as the one that we set on the character, which will be probably the T2 inventory database equip slots. So here we have 3 of them. Since I've created a lot of videos, if we go on Nolan, we can go under our inventory here, our equipable slots, and these two must match exactly. They must be the same object. Under equipable slots, item slot set. So this looks good. As you can see, we have slots for our primary, secondary, and tactical weapon, and all of them are equipable items. If you want to customize this, make sure to change these to item categories that match the slot that you want. Once we have all of our slots set, we can simply create our equipment window. And now we have it here. Equipment panel. We have 3 slots, one for our primary. We go here, primary item view slot, secondary item view slot, and tactical item view slot. Each of them has a item view slot restriction, which restricts to the item category that we set in the item slot set. Now what we can do is move this around and we'll try to merge this panel with the inventory grid panel such that it looks a bit better. So if we go down under our equipment panel, we can see that we have this component here, an item view slot container panel binding. This one will be important, so we'll copy. Then we have our header, which is not what we want. The panel content, which we don't really care about, but we do care about our equipment item view slot container. So what we do is find our inventory grid, main content, and then we'll move our equipment item view container inside this panel here. So now we don't need this equipment panel anymore. We'll go here under our inventory grid panel and we'll paste the component that we previously copied. Paste component as new. So now you have an item view slot container binding for your inventory grid and another one for your equipment. So this looks good to me. Let's try to save and see if it works. If we go in the console, it says that something does not exist. Equipment designer. We'll ignore this. Take the item, open the inventory. We have our 3 slots. We'll take the weapon, equip it, and there you go. It equipped it in the slot here. Now, if we click here, nothing is happening since we haven't set any item actions on these slots, but we did here, so we can equip and unequip. What we probably want to do is add the item action here to unequip it, and add a filter on this grid such that we do not show items that are equipped. So let's do that quickly. Once again, open the UI designer. Here, we'll go down in the equipment window to find the item actions. And we can probably set a different item action than before. So here we can create item actions. So previously they were called Tuto. This time we'll call it Tuto Equipment Category Item Action Set. And what we'll do is find it here and select the equip, unequip item action that we created. So under asset, equip item action set. There you go. This is the one that we created before. So now you'll be able to unequip from the equipment window. The other thing we wanted to do is under inventory grid, we wanted to add some filters so that we can hide the equipped item. To do so, we can simply add some default filters. Press plus, add a category name sorter or a item category filter, this one, or an item collection category filter, whichever one you prefer. Actually, sorry, we probably need to add this one. Either this one with the collection or this one. Let's add this one for now. We can select the filter here by pressing select default filter. Find it here in the scene. And we'll see that we have our item info, item collection filter. Here we can set the item collections that will hide and the ones that will show. So currently it's going to hide the ones that have a purpose of hide and the ones that have a purpose of loadout, but we probably also want to hide ones that have the equipable and set this to none and equipable slots. And let's set this to equipped. So now we will hide all of these collections here. Let's press save, close this, press play, now we will pick up this item, open the inventory, we'll be able to equip, and now as you can see it disappears from the inventory grid. And we can see it here, we can select this and unequip it. Once again, if you want to add a item action panel like this, then you can simply set it in the UI designer. I just want to mention that the bullets disappear simply because once we equip the assault rifle, the bullets will be equipped on the assault rifle. So now they won't be in the inventory anymore. In this video, we learned how to create and set up your UI for your integration. We've set up an inventory grid, an equipment panel. We merged the equipment panel with the inventory panel. We set up some item actions to equip and unequip items, and much more. The inventory system UI is extremely flexible and extendable, and you can customize pretty much everything, whether it is the item views, where you can have different views depending on the item category, whether it's filters or conditions or the attribute values of the items, and much more. If you want to learn more about the UI system in the inventory system, I would highly recommend that you watch the video tutorials specific to the inventory system and that you read the documentation. I hope that you learned a lot in this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.